Tana, your job is to show up, do the meet and greet, and do the show. No, I'm sorry that honestly, I don't have a job anymore because she's gonna tour by herself. Then if you want to be a and brag about it, then don't tour with me. Show us that you've been here on your own. I tried to show up to the event on my own. You interviewed the Uber out. Everyone waits 8 hours for you, but God, I waited time for that. And you get on time for this such a stupid
Great, of course, but why would we be on time if Tana's involved? We're just standing down here, rotting away, while she just fucking dilly-dallies upstairs. We're wasting money, is what's happening.
Tana Mongeau has built a career out of chaos. But now, she might be walking away from one of her most profitable projects ever. Not because of a scandal, not because of a brand deal, but because she's changed. And maybe, just maybe, she's outgrown Brooke Schofield. From the outside, Cancelled looked unstoppable. Sold out tours, millions of views, the raw, messy energy that made people feel like they were on FaceTime with two internet besties. But lately, that energy is gone. And Tana's starting to say the quiet part out loud. At first, it was subtle. A missed episode here, a weird vibe there. Fans brushed it off as hangovers or travel schedules. But the more you watched Cancelled, the more obvious it became. These two weren't clicking like they used to. There were awkward pauses, snappy comebacks, jokes that didn't land. Brooke looked irritated. Tana is looking distracted. What used to be chaotic bestie energy had morphed into something uncomfortable, like watching a couple trying not to fight in front of guests. And fans noticed. Reddit threads started blowing up with comments like, "Tana seems bored. Brooke seems annoyed. Why are they even still doing this?" What was once hilarious background noise became tense, and no one could quite figure out why. The speculation boiled over when Tana appeared on Impulsive. What started as a wild convo about OnlyFans, stalkers, and influencer boxing suddenly took a turn. Out of nowhere, Tana hinted that Cancelled might actually be coming to an end. No big announcement, no marketing plan, just a quiet confession buried in the middle of chaotic Logan Paul banter. But if you were paying attention, you caught it. She talked about growing up, about getting sober, about being in real love with Makoa, a guy who's not obsessed with social media. And for once, Tana didn't sound like she was playing a character. She sounded tired. And maybe even a little over it. "I'm not that person anymore," she said at one point. "I used to live for drama. Now it just exhausts me." For longtime fans, that was a bombshell. Because Cancelled isn't just a podcast. It's a brand built on chaos, conflict, and controversy. If Tana's outgrown that, what's left? Now, let's talk about the part no one wants to say out loud. Cancelled might have been doomed from the start. Tana is the face, the chaos, the headline. But Brooke? She's the structure, the one who shows up on time, who wants a polished product, who takes it seriously like a 9 to 5. And that's the thing. Tana never saw it that way. To her, the podcast was supposed to be fun, unhinged, a place to talk shit with her bestie and make bags while doing it. But to Brooke, it was more. She wanted to build something sustainable, something legit. She treated it like a career move, while Tana treated it like another stop on the circus tour. And when one person's trying to build an empire and the other's trying to just survive the day, things get messy. There were constant rumors of missed deadlines, Brooke getting frustrated when Tana would cancel last minute, Tana feeling boxed in when Brooke wanted things professional. That tension, it built up. And eventually, it started leaking into every episode. You could feel the shift. They weren't laughing with each other anymore. They were trying not to snap at each other. For years, Cancelled thrived on burning bridges. They exposed exes, dragged influencers, talked about things that most creators would never put on the record. But that raw honesty came with a price. Tana and Brooke have both been through the ringer, personally and professionally. Stalker threats, addiction issues, public fallouts, and while it made for entertaining content, it also meant constantly reliving trauma for clicks. At a certain point, even Tana, the girl who built her brand on oversharing, hit a wall. She's been open about therapy, about trying to set boundaries, about realizing that not everything needs to be content. And when you're evolving like that, sitting down to drag people on a podcast every week starts to feel kind of gross. Meanwhile, Brooke has her own reputation to deal with. She's often accused of riding Tana's coattails, of being a sidekick, not a star. And with every episode, that tension bubbled beneath the surface. It wasn't just drama with guests anymore, the drama was between them. Here's where things get messy. Because while fans were dissecting Tana's every word, Brooke became the silent target. not officially canceled, but caught in a weird purgatory where everyone was kind of over her. You'd see comments like, "I skip whenever Brooke starts talking. Tana could carry the show alone. She doesn't get the vibe anymore." The tone shifted from support to side-eye, and the deeper Tana leaned into this new, calmer era of her life, the more Brooke felt like dead weight, at least to the viewers. It's brutal, but it's the internet. Audiences don't just love drama, they pick sides. And once the tension was clear, so was the verdict. Tana was the star. Brooke was just there. What fans don't always realize, though, is that Brooke was likely carrying a lot of emotional labor. Behind the scenes, she was managing schedules, mediating egos, trying to keep things professional while also staying close to someone who thrives in chaos. It's a thankless position. And the moment the show started slipping, the narrative flipped. Brooke's the problem. Brooke's boring. Brooke's holding Tana back. She became the lightning rod for a podcast both of them were slowly burning out on. If you've been following Tana closely, you've seen it. Something has shifted. Gone are the daily scandals, the nonstop drinking, the whirlwind Vegas weekends. She's not showing up slurring on camera anymore. She's not blacking out mid-tour. Instead, she's in therapy. She's talking about boundaries. She's building something deeper with Makoa, a guy who, by the way, is not a social media person. And that matters. Because when you're used to relationships built on clout and content, falling in love with someone offline changes everything. Tana's not just sobering up her body, she's sobering up her brand. And with that comes some hard choices, like letting go of things that no longer serve her, like the podcast. It's not that she doesn't love Canceled, it's not that she doesn't love Brooke. It's just that when you're healing, you start realizing how many of your old habits were actually survival mechanisms. Talking shit for laughs, oversharing trauma for clout, laughing through pain because it performs well. That stuff doesn't hit the same when you're trying to be healthy. It starts to feel hollow. And from what she's hinted at on Impulsive and other interviews, that's exactly where she's at. She's not mad, she's not messy, she's just moving on. Here's the question no one wants to ask. Was it even a real friendship or just a business model? Tana and Brooke had undeniable chemistry, but Canceled took that chemistry and monetized it. Suddenly, they weren't just friends. They were co-hosts, co-producers, co-investors in a brand built entirely on their ability to vibe. And that kind of pressure warps things. It's one thing to fight with your bestie behind closed doors. It's another to show up to set, turn on cameras, and pretend everything's fine because sponsors are watching and rent is due. That's not friendship. That's performance. And over time, it breaks people, especially when the power dynamic is off. Tana has always been the star, the name, the platform. Brooke was talented, but replaceable in the eyes of the audience. And if you're Brooke, that eats at you. You're showing up, carrying half the show, dealing with the fallout, and still being treated like the sidekick. Eventually, you hit a breaking point. Not necessarily with each other, but with the whole setup. Because when friendship becomes content, someone always gets exploited. Someone always feels disposable. Someone always ends up wondering if the love was real or just part of the brand. At the time of writing, Canceled hasn't made an official announcement, but Tana's been quietly distancing herself. She's dropping hints on other platforms. She's showing up on podcasts that feel less tense. She's talking more about peace and less about pettiness. And Brooke? She's been quieter than ever. No Twitter threads, no shade, no breakdown posts, just silence. Which, honestly, might be the biggest sign of all. Because if Canceled was still a priority, they'd be addressing the rumors, teasing new episodes, shutting down speculation. But instead, all we're getting is nothing. And maybe that's the softest, most respectful way to end something that meant so much to so many. No scandal, no public fallout, just two people realizing that the version of themselves who created Canceled doesn't exist anymore. If this really is the end of Canceled, it's not just the end of a podcast. It's the end of a moment, a chapter, a version of Tana Mongeau that was loud, messy, chaotic, and wildly entertaining. But growth is messy too. Tana's growing, Brooke's evolving, and maybe the friendship isn't broken. It's just changed. We're so used to influencer friendships blowing up in public, but sometimes things just fade, and that can hurt even more because there's no closure. Just silence. So whether you loved Canceled or hated it, one thing's for sure, it gave us some of the wildest, most unfiltered moments in podcast history. And if this is really goodbye, they went out the same way they came in, raw, real, and completely unpredictable.